All right, let's dive into a really powerful parable. It's a story about what happens when huge ambition runs right into public ridicule. It's about the real cost of aiming high and, all the forces that seem to conspire to pull you right back down. So let's start with this question. What is the true risk of aiming high? You might think the biggest danger is just failing, right? Falling short. But what if there's something else, something far more dangerous at play? This story is going to show us exactly what that is. Okay, so our story kicks off with a tightrope walker. He's starting this incredibly perilous journey. But this isn't just some circus act. His goal is about way more than just getting from one tower to another. What he's trying to do is actually something profound. And the symbolism here is everything. That tightrope, it represents the incredibly difficult path of self-overcoming. The walker is literally trying to become a bridge to something greater, a higher version of humanity, leaving the safety and the judgment of the crowd far, far below. But just as this noble attempt gets going, the whole story takes a sharp, dramatic turn. An antagonist appears out of nowhere, a buffoon, a jester, and he represents the destructive, sneering force of cynicism itself. And this is the core conflict laid out perfectly. On one side, you have the tightrope walker. He's all about sincere effort, faith, transformation. He's building something. On the other side is the buffoon, who is all about mockery, disruption, and a deep, cutting cynicism that isn't here to build anything. It's here to shatter things. So, with these two completely opposing forces on the same thin rope, you know a confrontation is coming. And it does. The result is the central, tragic event of our story, the Great Fall. This is what happens when striving meets pure contempt. Now, this is so crucial. The walker doesn't just slip and fall. The buffoon performs this mocking leap right over him. And that sudden, shocking intrusion of raw cynicism does something much, much worse than just throwing him off balance. It completely shatters his belief in his own project. This quote from the text just hits you right in the gut. He lost not only his footing, but his faith in his own striving. You see, the physical fall was just a symptom. The real collapse, the real tragedy, happened inside his head the moment that ridicule destroyed his faith. And this brings us to this key idea, the spirit of contempt. This isn't just passive disbelief, It's an active, heavy force. It's the weight of ridicule and scorn that is always trying to pull down anyone who dares to rise. The walker's fall was basically this spirit yelling victory right in the middle of the marketplace. But remember, the walker and the buffoon aren't the only ones in this story. There's a whole crowd watching from below, in a place called the Motley Cow. And wow, their reaction is incredibly telling. To this crowd, this man's tragic end, the complete collapse of a huge ambition, was nothing more than a vanishing spectacle. Just think about that. It was a brief, thrilling bit of entertainment, and then they just moved on with their day. I mean, the crowd's whole mentality just perfectly aligns with that spirit of contempt. They would much rather see the simple, morbid thrill of a fall than deal with the complex, difficult truth of what it takes to actually transform. It proves that so often, people will bet on spectacle over substance. So his broken body becomes this stark physical testament to a really painful lesson. Trying to do something great and dangerous is a perilously lonely business. The text notes he had no fellow creators to help steady the rope, no one to offer support when the mockery came. But there is one person in that crowd who sees more than just a quick show, the prophet Zarathustra. For him, this awful tragedy isn't an ending. It's a profound revelation. He sees this whole thing as a belly of the whale moment. It's that dark, harsh, awful trial that you have to go through to learn a necessary and often brutal truth about the world you're trying to change. So what lessons does he learn? Well, there are three big ones. First, the harsh reality that mediocrity will actively try to sabotage anyone attempting to overcome themselves. Second, that going down into the world with your message, a downgoing, is a risk you just have to take. And finally, that this journey is nearly impossible to do alone. Let's really get this idea of downgoing because it's crucial. It isn't about giving up, it's the opposite. It's about leaving a place of safety to bring a new idea to the people, knowing full well that when you do, you risk getting struck down by all those sneering voices, by that low hum of modern unease. So, in the end, the parable is this incredibly stark picture of what happens when the noble pursuit of greatness smacks right into the spirit of contempt. What should have been a beautiful, hopeful bridge just gets turned into a cautionary ruin. And that really leaves us with a pretty deep question to think about. In a culture that so often prefers the spectacle of a fall to the substance of a difficult climb, who are the fellow creators out there that are steadying the rope for you?